Eric Pace. He is the principal of the West Bloomfield High School. And as we were speaking earlier, Tyler, sometimes we have some of these guests on, but boy, everything changes so quickly. Yeah. And so, Principal, the last time we had you on, I think we were all excited about having the students back in the classroom. And now things have changed yet again. How are you and your team holding up with the latest surge in coronavirus cases?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I appreciate the question. So how we're holding up is okay. It's okay. We are, it's a little easier when you're committed to a common passion, which is to educate kids. So whether they're in front of you or remote or somewhere in between, right? The work is still there and it still remains the same. And then we have people that are extremely passionate about it. So we're holding up okay because we know we have a real defined purpose and an importance right now.
And we talk about that, and I know that you and your team behind the scenes are working around the clock. This is not easy. Typically we like to put a plan in place. This is our plan, and we're going to follow it. But your plan has to look like this crazy flow chart, right? Like so many different avenues and streams coming off of that flow chart because COVID-19 is not following any path that we can anticipate or even want to follow. And so you're having to make adjustments on the fly. But unfortunately, when you're making those adjustments, they directly impact hundreds of families. So I know that you can't make everyone happy, but knowing that, what has your message been to the parents and the students right now?
Yeah, our plan is no different than it was, when I started in March or when I started in education 15 years ago, and that's to educate kids, right, to be the best they can in and for the world. Now, the way we do that, that plan changes, feels like hourly. Our goal is to get kids in person with our teachers face to face as soon as possible, but to do so in a safe manner. So I just left a meeting where there's 3 new plans to branch off of our current plans that look at ways that we can try and accommodate that safely depending on what this virus does and what our numbers around us do. So, the easiest way to look at this is that, we want to be back in class. Our teachers want students back in class, but we need to be safe about it. And we need to respect, our teachers and what they do, as well as what our families' preferences are. Hope isn't a plan. Okay, hope is what we all have right now. But if we rely on that, then we're going to kind of just flail in the wind. So we really are working behind the scenes, like you said, to just examine and re-examine all the different ways we can possibly be successful at this remotely, as well as getting students back as soon as possible.
One other thing I would think that makes your job so difficult is you're not just targeting one simple demographic. You have so many different demographics, and by demographics I mean you're looking at kindergartners and special ed and junior high and high school. There's so many different elements to this plan that you're trying to put in place, and knowing that do you wish that you would have just stayed all remote this semester to eliminate some of this confusion, or have those months and those weeks of being in class for some of the students been extremely beneficial?
I think in West Bloomfield, we've been pretty forward thinking and intentional about how we target each group. I'm actually, interviewing with you right now from my wife's first grade remote classroom, if you can't tell, with the background. So our kindergartners through 8th graders have been in person on an AM/PM rotation. Our high schoolers have been completely virtual because of the sheer number of students and the mixing that they have between classes. And then our students with needs that are identified through an IEP and special education, some of them have been in person at the high school. So we've really tried to differentiate those plans to meet those groups' needs individually, and we're really successful at it. It took until just 2 weeks ago till we had our first positive case anywhere, and all of the cases that we had that led to quarantines all came from outside of the school district, within the families in the community. So I think by targeting individual demographics in unique ways, we were really able to meet the needs of those students and those teachers. Now, we can't control what goes on outside in the community, and right now that's dictating some of what we do, but we are planning behind the scenes feverishly to try and work around that and be able to come back safely as soon as possible.
Eric Pace with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the principal at West Bloomfield High School. And I love what you were saying. It's like you're trying to control what's happening once they enter that school door, but you can't control the attitudes and the behaviors outside. But yet it's having a direct impact on you. And knowing that, when do you think that long term it's not going to be until a vaccine is widely distributed until we can get back to some sort of normal when it comes to teaching?
I don't think normal as we knew it a year ago is ever going to be the same, because I think we've learned a lot in how we deliver education and what remote instruction looks like, that we can really blend in some new tools and techniques and strategies. When it comes to being related to COVID and the vaccine, again, we can hope all we want. I don't believe that's going to be a plan for us, right? So our goal is going to be to find ways to best meet the needs of our students. Some of that's going to be in person, some of that remote, as soon as it's safe in the community. We're going to reevaluate this here around Thanksgiving time. And then I think they're going to continue to reevaluate regularly in order to best determine how to meet those needs at each demographic level that you're describing.
Eric Pace with us, principal at West Bloomfield High School, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Eric, we recently spoke to Deanna Barish when the decision was made to return the entire school district back to virtual learning due to the increase in COVID-19 cases. And she had mentioned then that particularly for winter sports, that they may be affected by this recent uptick, and that's going to depend somewhat on the MHSAA. Within the school district, as the MHSAA has urged before, all these decisions of whether or not to participate or when to bow out will be made at the district level or at the school-to-school level. Any talks in the district about what to do going forward with the current fall sports and with winter sports coming up and spring sports coming up as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic, with school being virtual but these sports still, of course, being in person?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what makes our athletics and our activities unique is that they're already cohorted in small groups, right? So if I take, for example, a basketball team that might have 15 players on it, or even 3 levels of basketball, so it'd be 45 players in 3 different cohorts. That's the only group that they're mixing with. And what they do outside in the community, again, is outside of our control. I know our coaches really urge safety and responsibility, and we've done a really nice job with that. So if I, was looking at an entire school that was 15 or even 45 students with an adult per every 15 kids, I think we could be in school safely in person on a daily basis, right? So it's all about how you limit that cross contact and exposure between groups. So even something as large as a football team, which some football teams, including ours, are still playing in the playoffs right now, it may be 60 students with 5, 6, 7 adults. And so when they run their practices and their drills, they can really distance themselves and work in small pockets in a way that would, if there was any positive cases or anything like that, would really limit exposure and not have to shut down per the CDC and health department recommendations. So when it comes to winter sports, they're all indoors, which can kind of throw a little bit of a challenge into that just based on what the recommendations are health-wise. But our goal is to continue to offer these activities and these opportunities for students as best as possible. But there are talks, of course, and there are frequently about how to do those things safely. Is it worth looking at pausing things for 2 weeks? Is it, no spectators? So no plans have been finalized by any means, and we're definitely going to work really closely with the MHSAA and our Oakland County Health Department on that.
For me, we're going back a while here, but for me, what made school so special wasn't so much about going to class each and every day. It was those other activities, cheerleading, basketball, track, student council. That was the important, not the important part, because we're there for an education, but those other activities do mean something when you're doing college applications, but also for some students, that's what motivates them to actually go to class and to excel, is to be a part of those extra groups and extra activities that schools typically offer. And now that you're having to go online, are you worried that some parents are going to say online teaching's the way to go, and you're going to lose students because at the end of the day, this is a numbers game, and your budget is based on how many students you have in the seats. Are you worried that you're going to lose some students permanently because you're unable to really offer those in the same spirit of what were offered, pre-pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Again, we'd be lying to ourselves if we say that education is in a competitive marketplace where families really do have a lot of options on how to best meet the educational needs of their children. So what we're looking at is how do we learn from what's gone on since March, right? How do we take the things that we've already been successful at and then build upon that and expand to provide diverse options for students? Is there a way that when we return face-to-face that we can flex some of those classes to be remote or just remote at times? Is there a way to flex the time that you do come to school and don't come to school? And then also blend that with, like you said, the culture, spirit, and community of a high school campus. We surveyed our families to find out what it is that they need from us. What is it that they want when they come back face-to-face? And overwhelmingly, over 87% of them said it's the social interactions between their peers and their teachers. So we know that the need is out there and the desire is there. So in terms of the culture and what they're coming back to, we're confident that that's something we can provide. But I think we need to layer in these new modes of teaching and learning to really individualize instruction for our students.
So just another minute or so left with you here. Eric Pace with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. He's the principal at the West Bloomfield High School. What has been the benefit and the silver lining that has come out of this, other than kids are no longer going to have snow days?
Yeah, that's devastating to me. But it's, for me, and I take this back to a quote from a long time ago, Winston Churchill, right? You never waste a crisis. So we have an uncontrollable situation upon us, and we can obviously dwell on that and what can't be and the things that we're missing. And it's important to grieve some of those things, right? But then we need to take a look at what we can learn, right? That's what we're here for, is to be educators. And those of us that are educators, and I think most of us out there are lifelong learners, right? If I'm 37 years old and if I think I'm done learning, then I should probably quit now. So we need to take a real hard look at how our students interacting with content and their teachers, how it is that our teachers are delivering lessons. I've never seen teachers work harder than I have right now. And I think that from that, we're really going to gain some positives in how to reach students in different ways, improve our efficiency, and a real appreciation for the work that we do in a classroom.
I can tell you, I do truly believe after all of this, you have a lot of parents that are appreciating teachers so much more. Just in like 10, 15 seconds, what have you heard from feedback from some of the parents out there?
The feedback's mixed, as it always is, right? A lot of people want a lot of different things, but I think the overall theme is appreciation. People know how important this job is and what it means to educate kids, and we appreciate our families for being patient and being supportive as well.
Well, you're lucky I'm only a pet parent, because I would lead the revolt to bring back cursive writing and long division. No new math. You're like, okay, I'm done. Great to have you with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. We so appreciate your time, but also all the hard work. This is not an easy time for all of you over at the West Bloomfield High School, so thank you for all that you're doing.